Welcome to Dracula on a Boat. Multiple thousands of copies of Dracula do I own. Why? Because of this thing I have with vampires. I don't know what it is, but Universal Studios decided to grace us with two vampire Dracula movies this year, which is very unusual. Guarantee one of them was probably supposed to be out sooner. I think it was this film because I looked and researched an old Kevin Smith episode from 2019, early 2019, where Mark, his co-host, talks about Dave Dismulsion is going to do a Last Voyage of the Demeter story, and I was like, ooh, because Dave had just been cast as the Polka Dot Man, so he was kind of high at the time in the popularity. And then the pandemic happened, and the Suicide Squad movie obviously got postponed, which obviously postponed this movie because the Suicide Squad is a much bigger film. But the scope of this movie is huge. This was a really incredibly scope-filled movie, and for a person who has read Dracula multiple times, which by the way, if this copy looks familiar, if you've ever seen Fright Night Part 2, this is the copy that Charlie's girlfriend is reading in the library before Charlie goes to meet her for their date. I had to track it down because the Hildebrandt brothers did the artwork in it, and it is beautiful, by the way. All the versions of Dracula I own because the artwork is beautiful. This is the Edward Gorey version, which has amazing illustrations like this right here. Jesus Christ, look at that. Isn't that amazing? Edward Gorey, by the way, was the stage artist for Dracula back in the 1970s. The Dracula that would give us Frank Langella as Dracula, which he would go on to be in the Universal 1979 movie, which if you pop over to Scott and I's podcast, the Vampire Movie Minute Podcast, you can listen to our 5-minute reviews of here, there, and everywhere as we go through it. We've been on a bit of a delay, but we are coming back to it. Katie's invited to come on the show with us to talk about 5 minutes of that movie, but maybe she might join us for the next movie we're doing, which is My Best Friend is a Vampire, which just came on DVD and Blu-ray for the first time ever. In fact, I might have a certain vampire from that movie on my show, considering there's one of them is dead in the movie, one of them is alive, and one of them is a main character who would be very difficult to try and reach. You'd have to guess which vampire I might have on my show. She is beautiful, let's just say. But I also have to plug Netflix, and I can't do that right now, and neither could she. So we're kind of waiting until certain things in Hollywood are settled down for her to come on the show. But I digress. We're here to talk about this vampire movie, The Last Voyage of the Demeter, with Katie the Blonde in front of Fear, and I will also go over some of the stuff from the novel Dracula and how it pertains to this film.
Well, ahoy, mateys! I want to say, bite me, and let's bat those hatches, or bat my hatches, or I don't know nautical terms. So, pardon me. I do want to say right now, I apologize to all of my Greek friends and everyone that I have completely butchered the name Demeter. I keep saying the last voyage of the Demeter. I so am sorry. It is the Demeter. I apologize. That was very bad that I did this. It is directed by Andre Overdahl, who you may know from the Autopsy of Jane Doe, starring Corey Hawkins, Liam Cunningham, David Dismalshin, Aisling Francioso, and John Briones. The Demeter is the ship that in Bram Stoker's Dracula takes Dracula from Romania, Carpathia. He with his 50 boxes of dirt. They board the ship. They cross the sea, a month-long journey, because this is like the late 1890s, something like that, and 1870s, 1890s. It's in the summertime, so lots of storms, crazy ships, and Dracula then lands on the coast of England. Now, before I get into this film, I will say this. I did like this film the first time I saw it when it was called Alien 3. I'm going to say why, because there are so many scenes that are directly from that film that I can say this. I have not read the book Dracula or read it in recent enough time to think about. I actually had to go through my brain and think, did Ridley Scott, was that supposed to be like a love letter to the Demeter, or was David Fincher supposed to be doing this? Because there's a lot of this movie that just blatantly reminds me of Alien and Alien 3. Turns out, kids, no. I don't believe that either of them were doing a love letter to Dracula, but Andre Averdal apparently was doing a love letter to Alien and Alien 3. So, if that's going to be a spoiler, it's going to give away the first kill, it's going to give away the ending. Those are exactly the same. There's a number of scenes where you kind of seen Dracula that is very similar to seeing a xenomorph for the first time. Uh, the CGI was a bit, honestly, the CGI was uneven. I thought some of it was very well done with the face of Dracula and, you know, his makeup and stuff. I just, not to be in some spoilers, but when you first see him, all I could think of was kind of the creatures from The Descent and mixed with Marilyn Manson in the Beautiful People video, which honestly isn't what I really thought I wanted to see. Yeah, see, there you go. There you go. Alien, Xenomorphs versus Dracula. That's what you're seeing here, kids.
Christopher Lee
As
Dracula,
the
by the
film,
way, a rare Christopher Lee toy.
ooh, nice.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Only
as the film
the only other
progressed,
figure
I
I think he
didn't.
is the Count Dooku.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand why when you first see the creature, why it during a month's journey, it hasn't really progressed to the way I would think it would when it has slaughtered so many creatures and so many humans. I also have to say that with the set design, I actually heard that they like handcrafted boat. Like that is a real boat that they filmed a lot of things. It, you know, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I will say that the boat does look beautiful. That is a hell of a boat for like I think maybe only 8 crewmen. That again was a little bit confusing to me. Again, I'm not a nautical lady. I don't know that much about the boats. I can swim and all that stuff, but there's some things that were confusing. I thought some of the scenes just lasted a little bit too long. They maybe could have been better if they had done a little bit of a twist to them. I thought some of the CGI was great. Some people get, catch on fire. I thought those are some of the best looking scenes of the film. Liam Cunningham, who, people may know from Game of Thrones, was amazing. David Desmalchian, as Chris said, who's in Suicide Squad, and he's from that Kansas Missouri kind of border. Love him and everything he ever does, and Corey
And 2
Hawkins.
other movies we've already done this year.
Yeah, I mean,
The Boogeyman and Ant-Man.
Yeah, I mean, Desmalchian's in like everything, and rightfully so. He is a brilliant character actor and an awesome screenwriter and director as well. So everyone, if you don't know who he is, David Desmalchian, you need to look out. But Corey Hawkins, who is the true star of the film, who plays Dr. Clemens, who is on board the Demeter as a fluke just to get back to England and happens to save the captain's grandson. I mean, he's the heart and soul of this film. I thought he was incredible. I know he's been doing a little bit more sci-fi horror kind of films. I think he's a great, just all around actor that can do so much. And it was nice to see him with this crew. I thought the cast was great. Ainsley Franciosi, if you don't know her, she's in the movie Nightingale. Ah, that one breaks my heart. She's fantastic in this too. I don't think anything is wrong with the cast. Sometimes their accents may be a little bit wonky and they go in and out of where they're supposed to be coming from. Whatever. I can look past that. Maybe the narration at the end isn't necessarily the actor that we're supposed to be hearing because it's like that does not sound like you at all. Again, don't really care. But there's a number of things that just don't, I don't know. There's a lot. This is, supposed to be based on the Dracula myth, all that stuff. If you do not know anything about this, it really relies on the audience to have an inferred knowledge of the backstory of Dracula. Like the whole thing with the 50 crates of his home earth that he needs to survive, you know, wherever he goes and stuff like that. He needs to have his home dirt, and that is Dracula. That's not even really looked at by the crew, or when they're in the car, like it's like they kind of like, oh, we found somebody in this box, but then they don't open up the rest of the boxes to see what's going on. Just really odd, dumb things like that. It's like, oh, we found this woman. Hey, now people start dying. You know what? She's in her little cabin thing, but she seems to be fine. It's like you, so no one thought that maybe if you all just stayed with her in that cabin, you would all be fine. Because I mean, it seems like everyone who died, yeah, I don't know. It was just, to me, it just seemed like kind of a mess, sort of like how I'm explaining it. I didn't think it sucked, but I didn't think it didn't suck. Uh, I just wanted it to be better. It was, to me, it sort of like nibbled, but it didn't really have a bite. There definitely were some things regarding not practical effects, but uh the way people get wounded that I feel like has been like a just completely smash in the face over and over and over and over. I've seen that already like in 5 films this year. I feel like that's majorly a huge thing in horror now, that just completely try to pulverize the face. That was okay, but it's like, yeah, I kind of know what this is going. It was sort of overdone. Again, I called out the first kill, I called out the last one. I also thought it was a little bit ridiculous that this is going to be a spoiler. Again, this is supposed to be about Dracula, how he's going from his homeland of Romania to England. When you see England and someone is in a pub in England, apparently Dracula is supposed to be in there, but he also looks like everything he looks in the poster, like this grayish man with a cane. And apparently everyone in this English pub must, yeah, he looks kind of like that. So apparently everybody is totally cool with that in like late 1800s England. Oh, okay. I mean, I get it. He looks like that, but I don't think he'd be out in public and like everybody like, hey, cool, what up? Yeah, look at that little Count Chocula. I, yeah, I thought direction was okay, but I definitely do think that whoever, let's see, who wrote, okay, David Geiler, Walter Hill, and Larry Ferguson. I feel like you guys should be a little bit upset regarding this, because I feel like they took a lot from your movie and made it into the Demeter. There's a number of kills that honestly I can't remember how certain people died, and I just saw it that last night. It was that uneventful for me. I
Well,
do think,
one of
huh?
the writers is from the Escape Room films. I mean, that should tell you something.
I mean, I don't, if they want to like copy other people's work, then yeah, it tells me that. But I don't know. I just felt like it just could have been better. I I don't want to get into too much because I feel like there's spoilers that would just give away why certain scenes could be that way. I think the ship was great, although it did confuse me how you could knock on the thing and you can hear other people's knocks, but when someone's like screaming their head off bloody murder because they're getting killed, no one can hear this on this ship. Again, I'm not a Nautica girl, so I don't really understand this, but this one, I wanted more. Again, I never go in knowing anything, so it was nice to see Corey Hawkins, seeing Liam Cunningham and knowing his face, and Dexter Malshin. I had no idea any of these guys were in it. Didn't know that Andre Overdahl was the director until the end. It's like, oh yeah, I know him. But I would say I was disappointed. It's not bad, but it's just not, I don't know. I just don't think it's anything that I would say, oh, you got to rush out and see it and do all this, because I will do, I'm going to say a huge spoiler. One of the most disappointing parts of the film to me is that they really kept showing Dracula when I wish they would have kept him more in the shadows and just his eyes, and then like, you know, maybe some slit throats or ripped out stuff and blood splatter, and then maybe the back of his head. When you see a full body scene of Dracula, kids, it went from frightening to kind of funny to me because it's like he's supposed to be this menacing, like winged creature that's been killing everyone, giant, like 8 foot arm span, menacing face is just gruesome, these chilling eyes. And then you span down, he's got these little bitty chicken feet. And I'm like, yeah, that just lost it for me. I'm not really, you just look like a little owl. You look like a bald owl, and didn't really that didn't really do it for me. So it's really hard if I have to like try and come up with things that are good to say about it. I do think it's a nautical nightmare. Again, Corey Hawkins, I thought his heart and soul was the film. I think he's a great narrator. I think Liam Cunningham, I wish he kind of would have had more to do with it because I feel like as a captain, he was kind of like an absentee grandfather captain because this was like supposed to be his last voyage and sort of doing that. But he definitely seemed like he was sort of phoning in, you know, with the boat. But yeah, I don't. Chris, what did you think? I've been going on too much.
All right, so I have the log of the Demeter here as the opening of the movie begins. On
Yeah.
July 6th, we finished taking in cargo, silver, sand, and boxes of earth. At noon, set sail. East wind, fresh, crew, 5 hands, 2 mates, cook, and myself, captain. On July 11th, at dawn, entered Bosphorus, boarded by Turkish customs officers. Bakshish, of course, all correct. Underway at 4 p.m. That does not happen in the movie.
No.
July 12th, through Daedalus, more custom officers. So, by the way, through most of the Demeter's travels, they don't just go from Romania to England nonstop. No, they have to go through customs, even in 1897, in order to pass their ship through. And they do pass through the Mediterranean Sea, which is off the coast of Africa, and a lot of royal countries like Turkey and the Middle East and Egypt and stuff like that. So when they pass through there, they have to be boarded and they have to be searched, which was something I was looking forward to seeing, to wonder if we were going to have like them having to board new passengers, because I'm like, I saw the trailer and I'm like, wait a minute, where is this woman all of a sudden? Because there is no woman aboard the story of the Demeter. Let's face it, in the Dracula book, there's 5 women: Lucy, Mina, and the 3 brides. That's it. So I thought it was clever how they have this woman aboard. I'm not going to spoil it, but it was well explained enough for me. I wasn't too concerned about there being people of color aboard. That's fine. And this is post America freeing slavery, so that's fine, even though in other countries it was still kind of popular.
Well, and
So
they actually gave the backstory with that and how, and the hardships he had, and that's why he had to be on the Demeter.
Right.
Yeah.
There's, as far as I can tell through the Demeter notes, so the log of the Demeter is, by the way, in Dracula's novel, Bram Stoker's novel, excuse me, it is approximately 3 pages, which goes into about like what happened and them losing the their food supply, and then the fog rolling in, and they're about to hit England, and then all of a suddenly, them losing their crew members one by one by one by one.
Yeah.
And Dracula escapes his ship in wolf form, and when he sets a foot on land, he is as handsome as Gary Oldman, as handsome as Christopher Lee. Take your pick of which Dracula you love. Not the Nosferatu that we kind of a bit gave away. Just an FYI, this is a 125-year-old story, people. Don't expect anyone. Don't expect there to be like spoilers for a story that's 125 years old. It's called The Last Voyage of the Demeter, and if you don't know how the story of the Demeter goes, go read Dracula before you go see this movie. FYI. um, I didn't hate this movie. I thought beautiful. It looked beautiful. I enjoyed this a lot more than I enjoyed Redfield. I came out of Redfield going, eh, but I came out of this going, oh, yeah, this is all right. This is okay. I hit him on all of Katie's points as well about certain things in the film. Why they did the Dracula demonic form the entire time might just have been to give us a creature feature movie. Is it to differentiate it from the fact that Universal put out 2 Dracula movies this year, and one of them is a swarmy, over the top, egotistical maniac Dracula, and this one is a monster There is
Yeah.
nothing to be in love with. There's nothing you want to fuck. Sorry, there's nothing you want to enjoy. There's nothing about this that's romance. Thank God this is the first Dracula movie, FYI. There was no romance, thankfully. Renfield had inklings of a romance or something that I was like, oh, there's also Renfield's like entire tragic backstory with his wife and kids. So there's your romance as well. But this movie, there is no romance with anybody. There's, the loving father and son story, and then a bunch of bros on a ship. So that's it. And I was fine with that because we don't always need to have a romance story with vampires. It can be 30 Days of Night sometime, which, by the way, still has a romance plotline with the sheriff and the deputy being husband and wife. But I digress. 30 Days of Night and Last Voyage of the Demeter and The Strain, another good one, are all indicative of the monster vampire, where they are not to be falling in love and want to be swooned in eternal life for, to be loved forever and yada yada yada. I did
Yeah.
that in Vlada. Yeah, I wrote a vampire, I wrote a Dracula story, my own Dracula story, where we gender swapped the cast of Dracula. I wanted to draw the line between her being excuse me, her being a monster and her being a lover as well. So she is a monster sometimes, and she takes what she wants, and she bites what she wants, and she screws what she wants. But at the same time, she's also like, a woman of needs and wants and desires and things like that too, because of the fact that I wanted to make it, somewhat sexy, but also throw in the monster part as well. In my story, Dracula turns into this huge hairy beast, kind of like in what do you want to call it, the Werewolf of London. So that's another comparison to this I have, or whatever, is that we have this, another great creature effect kind of thing. I don't know a lot about the behind the scenes story of this movie. I choose to watch the trailers before these movies come out, but I do not go digging into Fangoria. Had a huge article. If you go pick up the newest issue, Dracula's on the cover in full on bat form. Big as day on the cover, and they probably have a bunch of behind the scenes in there about it. There's probably clips online of them interviewing whoever's playing Dracula. I don't even know who played Dracula in this, by the way.
Someone, there is a name, but it's not anyone that I recognize.
Okay, so yeah. By the way, the other writer of this movie wrote Bullet Train, which I did enjoy. So, you know, the two escape movies are kind of meh, but Bullet Train was a lot of fun. Like Katie, I enjoyed seeing Liam Cunningham. If you're a big fan of Game of Thrones, you of course remember him from that as well. Because other than him and David, I didn't really recognize too many other people. I'm sure the kid who played the cabin boy, the grandson, Woody will continue having a career, hopefully. Um, I I love the fact that, as Katie said, they built the ship. That's amazing. I was just recently in a pirate ship here in Massachusetts. There was the legend of this famous pirate ship that crashed off the coast of Massachusetts, and we have a whole museum dedicated to it. They even rebuilt a lot of the ship inside the museum, so you can like walk aboard it and stuff like that. So when I knew this movie was coming out, I had to see it, even though these are not pirates, but it's still a seafaring tragic story nonetheless. The great thing to take away from this is it's a story from Dracula that has really never been told. The Netflix
Fair.
series did a little bit of it, but overall, let's face it, this story has never had this type of attention. It's basically the three chapters in the book, and then bam, right back to Mina's journal. So, or Mina and Lucy's story, when Jonathan's still trapped in Transylvania. That's it. So it's really great that they took this one story that I was like, when I heard that they were doing that in 2019, I was like, oh my god, that's so brilliant. That's so freaking brilliant. Nobody's done that before. So my hats off to them. There's still a lot you can do with the Dracula novel. Um, I did my own version. Uh, I highly recommend going to see this in theater just to see the scope of the film and the boat and everything. I just think the cinematographer did an amazing job. I hope this gets nominated for like Saturn Awards or Hugo Awards or Chainsaw Awards or whatever the sci-fi geeky awards are. That would be fantastic because I think it deserves some of those. Story and character wise, it's hit or miss. Uh, but I enjoyed this more than Renfield. Go watch it in theaters. I'd recommend going and seeing it at Blackstone Valley Cinema Deluxe. That's where I saw it. I don't know where you saw it, Katie.
I saw it AMC River East. I do agree with you. Visually, it is stunning. I mean, all of those scenes on the sea, the ocean, the moonlight, even the sunrise are absolutely gorgeous. Uh, I, if you don't want to pay the money though, I would possibly skip it. I feel like there are a few better films, especially horror, out there right now. However, Chris is right. This is the first time that an entire feature film has been focused on the ship, the Demeter. And this is a huge factor in a legendary literary character that has then gone on, to, be an icon in film.
Right.
So if you are into Dracula, into vampires, stuff like that, go see it. For me, I just really wish that it was less Alien 3 and more its own like Demeter story.
Right.
Yeah, there are a lot of flaws and holes that I would have loved to like patch up and work out. I mean, set sail for the theater if you choose to see it. I mean, Chris liked it. I say I don't think it necessarily needs to sink, but it didn't really float with me. So go Batty, go nuts, check it out. Let us know what you think.
Like, subscribe to this video. Check out the other videos here on the Radio Horror YouTube channel, as well as other reviews. I just posted a review of me and my son for the Meg 2. This is better than the Meg 2 in terms of a seafaring movie. Katie and I will be back for
I
a
don't
retro
find that
review.
hard to believe, Chris. I really don't. I haven't seen the Meg 2 yet, and yet, as I didn't like this film that much, I would rather see this film 5 more times than see the Meg 2, probably.
Katie and I will be reviewing another vampire movie later this year, a retro review for the 25th anniversary of a certain vampire killer, and also connected to Dracula, and I will explain when we get to that video as well, because his origins are connected to Dracula in a big way. But I digress. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.